the question poll while you're waiting. Just let us know the ages of your children. And then also there's 3 choices as far as so far, what is the most challenging for you as far as virtual learning? And I'm sure that some of you would like to choose all of them or 2 of them, but if you would just pick the one that you feel like is the most challenging, frustrating, annoying at this point.
We have some votes coming in. All right, looks like everybody's about half of people have voted so far. Oh, here we go. 70%. Yeah, and we have mainly ages 6 to 10 represented today. And most people so far are experiencing the most challenges with making sure their children actually complete their assignments and tasks. Yeah, so we'll just leave that up for another minute or so as people trickle in, and then we'll let you get started. I'm gonna go live on Facebook right now.
Okay, great.
Yeah, you can go ahead and close it.
Morgan, are we still pretty much mostly 7 to 10 or 6 to 10-year-olds?
We are, yeah, about 64% of people have children in that age range, and we're still seeing on the second question, at this point, 82% are having trouble with making sure their kids just complete all their assignments and tasks.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good. Hopefully that means that most of them are getting to class on time, somewhat following their schedule at least.
Yeah.
I know I still have my schedule sitting next to me at all times during the day.
Me too.
Varies from day to day.
Yeah. I'm a freak, honestly, about like color coding and highlighting things, and I love like that pen to paper feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Me too. I'm much more a pencil paper girl, no matter. I'm not as good at using Google Calendar. I keep trying to, but it just doesn't stick.
Yeah.
So I love written list.
It just feels good to mark it off.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. And we're still, by the way, we're still seeing the same percentage-wise, like more people in the 6 to 10 age range and having trouble with completing assignments and tasks. Cool. So
Okay. Well, this helps me know if I need to, where I should spend a little bit more time. So we'll make sure we spend more time when we're talking about checklists then.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I will go ahead and end the poll then and just let you get started.
All right, great. All right, well, thank you guys for joining us today. Oh, we'll go ahead and start off with our poll results, and then I'll introduce myself. So it does look like we have about 60% of our kiddos who are in that elementary school range. We've got 33% in middle school and a lonely 7% in high school. And then making sure that our students are getting their work completed is the overwhelming majority. And it seems like we do have a couple people that are still having trouble with their child adjusting to the schedule and making it to class online, which I understand. I am seeing that on my end as well as a teacher. My name is Jill Wichern, and I am a teacher, special education teacher here in North Carolina. And so our focus today is just to kind of go through visual schedules, checklists, social stories, and talk about how you can create those resources for your child at home. Now that we're not in school, your child may not have access to everything that they had in the actual physical school classroom, and everything just looks different. So let's go ahead and get started. Our webinar today is sponsored by Revibe. And so we're going to get started first with visual schedules. Like I said, I want to honor the fact that I see the overwhelming majority of people are having the most trouble with getting work completed. So I will focus most of my time and efforts there. But we will start off with visual schedules and go over that. So basically, we have a couple examples of visual schedules here. We're using them to tell when and where, or when and what, or when, where, and what, all three. Just depending on the needs of your child, the age of your child, what's developmentally appropriate. So that may look something like a list of virtual classes with the login info. So it's the list of classes that they're taking for the day, and those Google Meet or Zoom or whatever platform they're using codes. It could be the classes listed in order of occurrence with the time. So just kind of, science and the time, math and the time. And then your schedule can be, it's based on what your child needs and what works best and what they're going to respond to. So it can be just pictures, icons, clip art. You can put print there and have just, your visual with a label on it, or just a short phrase for your older students. And you can also use a schedule to help break down one task. So if you think about your child working on a writing assignment that's due, maybe something that's assigned, earlier in the week and is due on Friday, and they're struggling with kind of breaking that down into what they need to get done, helping them schedule out, this is what I'm going to do on Monday for my writing piece. Maybe that's, pre-planning, getting a rough draft going, creating a plan. Tuesday, maybe a day that I'm going to work on finishing up my rough draft. Wednesday, maybe working on editing, and so on. And again, that can be used for something more basic too. It could be a list of steps to go to the bathroom and wash hands. So a schedule on how to go to the bathroom and complete all the tasks that you need to do while there. Again, for kiddos with autism, that's kind of a time when we see that we may need to have schedules for more specific and self-help kinds of things. So with the visual schedule, we want to use this to focus on that synchronous learning time. So basically, you're thinking about the time when your child is in live instruction, actually meeting with their teacher, what that's going to look like, and then showing them with their schedule what time is allotted for independent work. Before we really dive into this, I want to say that with any of these items that we're working on today, a great first point of contact would be to reach out to your child's teacher. Maybe their classroom teacher from last year. If your child does have an individualized education plan, reach back to that teacher and find out if they have some sort of visual schedule, checklist, etc. on their IEP. If the teacher has that in a format that he or she would be able to share it with you. If it's something that they have created through the computer and they have a digital copy that they could share, even if it doesn't completely work right now, it's something that your child is familiar with, and you can edit it to make it work for the situation. That one would save you some time, and instead of having to recreate the wheel, and then also will allow your child to have something that looks familiar as much as it can when we have so many things going on right now that are so very different. So what I'd like to do now is I would like for you guys to drop into this chat box some suggestions of things that you would like to see on this schedule. I'm gonna pop into a Word doc and present that, and we're gonna actually build a visual schedule together. All right, let's see. Let's see if I can. Okay. So we're looking for so I have a comment here from Jana about neat way to break down tasks under one subject. So is that in reference to the visual schedule? Okay, okay, that helps. How to schedule breaks while still getting work done for ADHD. Gotcha. So helping them go ahead and plan out when those bathroom breaks are going to be and things like that. Gotcha. Okay. Because otherwise it could be break time all the time. Okay. Math, science, social studies, ELA lunch. Okay. Short breaks between activities, 2 to 3 minutes. Great. Okay. All right. I'm going to start popping some of this in here. All right. So math, science. Before I do that. So one of the first things that I usually do when I start my schedule is I like to insert a table. This helps you get that grid going if that's what you're looking for your schedule. And you just scroll across. I'm in Word, 2016 version, and whatever size you think you're going to need. The nice thing about creating a table is you can always add more boxes, change the shape of your boxes, whatever. So it's pretty user friendly and pretty easy to work with. So let's pop in math, science, lunch. I'm just popping these in. I may need to add some more here. Let's see. I'm going to, if it'll work with me, insert some rows below. All right, let's see. I wish I just made my table bigger, but that's okay. All right. Okay. So we've got math, science, lunch, ELA, which is going to be your English language arts, in case anyone's not familiar with that acronym. And then we definitely want some breaks in there. Okay. All right, looks good. Great. Okay. So we're going to go with this is our schedule. It'll work. So we have math, live instruction, then we have science, then we have social studies, or excuse me, we have science, lunch, and then we have ELA. So I would start off with math. If you want to add an icon for math, I go to Google. And I'll show you real quick. I'm not going to do this for all of them just to save time, but if you go to Google, and put in clip art, put in free clip art, math or numbers or whatever you want to put. We usually get some really cute stuff that pops up. So let's see. I like this one right here with the different operations. So I'm just going to copy that and come on here and paste it on there. There we go. And definitely shrink it down. So even if your child doesn't need pictures, all of us kind of need a little something here and there to break things up. So if we're thinking that this is live instruction, then I'm thinking that there's probably not going to be an opportunity to necessarily have a break during a subject because they would be engaged in live instruction. So I would try, depending on your child's schedule, when the next class starts, to see if you could put a break in between each subject. So let's see if we can do that. I'll pop science right here for now. Okay. So let's see, we're going to put in movement, you could call it a movement break. Whatever, will have meaning for your child. You call it a movement break, just a break. You could call it a water break, bathroom break, whatever you feel like your child needs. Your child may just need to get up to get some sensory input and do jumping jacks, or lean against the wall and do wall push-ups. So just call that break something that will have meaning for your child, that will help them know what to do during that time. So we'll say that one's a movement break. And then we'll put science back here. And you can see this is a work in progress. This is how it happens, constantly just moving things around and reworking things. All right, so then we're going to have our science. And we'll put our cute little, we would put our cute little icon there. And then we can give a break. And we can do that as a bathroom break or whatever we need there. So bathroom break. You could also do, like I had mentioned, wall push-ups or jumping jacks. So just kind of helping your child figure out where you can put this in their schedule. And somewhere in here, you're going to want to put the time, more than likely, even if your child's really not able to tell time, just more so for yourself. So then, if you want, it depends on how you want to use the schedule. You could certainly have just have the math or whatever here and the time over here in the other column. Or you could use Velcro, laminate this, use Velcro, and have them actually move the icon over here when they're finished. You could kind of set this up as like a finished column if you think that would be motivating to your child to be able to do that. With this schedule, you can certainly print it in color and laminate it. You could, just print it off in black and white and give them a new schedule each day. If it varies from day to day, or you need schedules for different days of the week, it's really just what's going to work for you and your child. Also, I have in the past, what I wish I had said before we started, your schedule, however you put your schedule together for your child. Number one, does not have to look pretty, does not have to be in a Word document. There's nothing wrong with a handwritten schedule, as long as the schedule is able to be understood and followed by your child. It's a great schedule. So you do what works for you. I have in the past made schedules for students that were handwritten, that had, on the top of at the top of the page had a couple of activities, and then everything underneath was covered up by sticky notes, because looking at their schedule for the entire day all at once was too much for them and made them feel like that they just wanted to go ahead and give up. They were never going to be able to do all that. They didn't want to think about doing all that. So it was not the most beautiful schedule, certainly not the most pretty, but it worked for those students. And then, some students like being able to have something that's printed that they can mark out the class after it's over. Some of us, myself included, love to be able to just mark things out and feel that sense of accomplishment that it's gone. And have the option to be able to take that schedule at the end of the day and crush it into a ball and toss it in the trash can. For some of our kiddos, that really gives them satisfaction and a feeling of knowing, hey, I got through another day. So this is just kind of a rough idea of how to put things together, how to get things started. And you can certainly put in, a time amount for your child and what times these activities would start. I was also going to say, anything that you see in the slides, just little pictures of schedules or anything that I start today, I will be sharing with Morgan to push out to you guys, that you can have access to these to be able to download them for yourselves, and they'll be editable so that you can make them work for you. All right, so let's go back to our slides. Sorry, I'm having trouble remembering where I am. That's not it. Too many tabs all at once. Too many tabs. Okay. Nope. My bar is in my way. Okay. I think it just popped me out because I was on a different screen. Okay. So that's it for visual schedules. All right, so next I want to move into checklists, and this is where we're going to really put in the meat of our time. So if there are other suggestions of things that you would like to see on the checklist, or questions or comments of something that you think could help someone else, please feel free to put them in the chat box. But as far as checklists, these are really going to be to-do lists for assignments. So think of this as your schedules are really the live instruction. Where do I need to be and when? The checklist is the student task. What work? What is the product that's coming from me for the teacher? And they can be in different formats. Again, same with schedules. Do what works for your child. You can stick with just pictures, icons, or clip art. You can use pictures with labels. Or just short phrases, whatever is age appropriate, developmentally appropriate for your child. The checklist, we're going to use that to give, to tell them where they can access the instruction or the work, but we don't want this to get too bogged down with directions or details. We just want to focus on this being a list of, this is what you need to do. Tell them where to go if it's a lot to keep track of, but really focus on just a list. So it could be something, an example would be something like planet sorting in Science Google Classroom. So we have a planet sorting activity, and we're going to go to our Science Google Classroom for that. And with this, again, like I mentioned, your focus is really on a list of the synchronous learning that your child needs to do. So pre-recorded lessons that are there for them to watch on those times when they don't have live instruction. It's that independent work that they're completing and need to submit, those types of things. All right. So you guys, please use the chat box and go ahead and start giving me some ideas of some things that you would like to see in the checklist. What are some typical activities that you guys are seeing for your kiddos? I'm going to go ahead and insert my table. Sometimes I use a table for checklists, sometimes I don't. Kind of depends on what the activities are, the abilities of your child. Okay, so I'm getting some Google Forms, test, enrichment activities. Okay. All right, are you seeing, Jana, are you seeing a Google form like for each class? Like there's a science Google form, things like that. Written response to story starters. Yes, for each assignment. Okay. In each class. Yes. So a long list of Google forms. Okay. All right. So let's get some of this down. Up at the top, I would add, a heading, to do, checklist, whatever you think will be, will speak to your child. And then with this, you could certainly, just depending on the ability level of your child, you could do this just as a straight list without boxes, even if you want, of just kind of to-dos for the day. Or like I mentioned before, for younger kiddos and kiddos who just like having some movement built into their day, you could certainly put things in one column, use Velcro and have them move it to the other column when it's finished. You could kind of set this up at the top. You could do checklist, or you could do this column as, work assigned, and then over here in this column have it finished work, and they could be able to move things by the use of Velcro if you wanted to do that. But we're just kind of plugging things on here, so what they would look like once we get it done. So let's see, we're going to do a Google form for science. We have that coming up. And especially with your checklist, those are probably going to change from day to day and week to week. So with this, you're really going to want to think about what's the best way for you as mom and dad, grandma, grandpa, aunts, uncles, teachers, to try to help your students figure out what their assignments are. Get that to them quickly so that you are not spending a lot of time setting this up every week. With the schedule, if that's fairly consistent, that's nice, because hopefully you may have some changes, throughout the week. There are A, B's, and D, and A days and B days, or A, B, and C days, but there's kind of a way that you can break that down, for your child, that they can use the same schedule over and over. With the checklist, you're just going to have to kind of get a little bit more creative and think about how to do that in a way that won't be too time consuming. Also, I think that I lost some train of thought. So sorry. Okay, so I'll get back to that in a minute. It's going to come back to me. So we've got our Google form for science. Sorry, I got distracted by Jana's comment over here. That feeling like the teachers don't have all the assignments posted at the beginning of the week, and then you're kind of finding that there are new things posted daily. And I know that's a struggle. And I will tell you, as a teacher, that, and I can only speak to how we're doing things at our school, but just being how students are, I know that there is some hesitation to post things all at the beginning of the week, and everything's there available for the students to do it, because some of them will go through and go ahead and do everything, and it's not correct because the material hasn't actually been taught yet. So that's one piece of it. Also, in our area, attendance is based on completing work. So, for example, a student can do all their work for the whole week and never show up to live instruction and still be counted as present at school. And so that's really tough, because again, we know that our students need to be in school. We certainly don't, school is not this to-do list that you're just checking off all these things and doing them. That doesn't mean that you're learning in anything. That's your evidence of learning. But if you're not coming for the live instruction, then you're missing, your actual time with the teacher. A tip I'd have figured out is that we use Google Meet and Google Classroom. And I've just learned this week that in the Google Classroom, if you're in that app, if you have that, there's actually a box up on the top left that says to do, and you can click that and it will show you exactly what your child's assignments are that are currently assigned to them. And then there's tabs to the side where you can see if there's anything missing and what's been submitted. So if you happen to be using Google Classroom, I do know that little trick. I see a comment here from Nicole. So my checklist includes checking every classroom every day, even when there's not an active class, so as not to miss anything a teacher may post. Yes, and that's something, again, here, that for us to have our kids engaged, and have that experience of doing math every day and ELA every day and science every day, we are posting assignments on the days that aren't asynchronous instruction. We have on Mondays, at the school I'm at, all of our students have all of their classes. And then on Tuesdays, they have half their classes, and Thursdays, the same half. And then Wednesdays and Fridays, they have the other half of those classes. So when they don't have those classes live instruction, they have that synchronous instruction, and things are getting posted to their classroom for them to do. So it is a constant checking and rechecking. And I know it's frustrating as parents, because it seems like the to-do list keeps getting longer. But there's also reasons why putting everything out all at one time doesn't work, because then kids don't come for instruction and they really don't understand what they're doing. We have kids, like, they just want to hurry and submit everything, and somehow they think that even if it's not right, that they're going to get away with it. So I think just having open communication with the teachers and finding out if there's a way, kind of what their overall strategy is, or kind of what you can do to help your child. Because I know, as parents and being working adults ourselves, we need to try to get our children to be as independent with this as possible. So I think a lot of this is, as your child is old enough, developmentally appropriate, to sit down and develop this checklist with them. Do it with them. Show them how you're doing this. I'm going to the science classroom, and I'm looking to see what's due for today on Wednesday for science. I see a Google form. I'm going to put that on there. I also see that there's, you're supposed to do a moon observation for science. You know, you have to go take a look at the moon this evening and jot some notes about that. So I'm going to put down your moon observation, things like that. So I know it's tough. I cannot speak to the Revibe schedule app. Morgan, if you want to jump in here, I know I believe there is a video, and there may
Yeah.
have been something coming up soon. I know, isn't there supposed to be a new update soon for the Connect?
Yeah, so Jana was asking if we were going to show how to use and set up the schedule for Revibe today. No, we are just having Jill do like little DIY stuff that you can do for today, but we definitely do have some other videos that I can put into the chat that talk about how to set up your schedule on your Revibe. I'll send that to you, Jenna, right now.
Okay, great. And with your activities, you know, if you can kind of figure out how long you think it should take your child to complete the activities, that'll help you know when to set up your breaks. So you could look at this Google form for science and see, okay, it has, you know, 6 questions. I want you to do, you know, questions 1 through 3. And then I want you to, let's move this guy right here. Oh, so I want you to go, trying to come up with another article, go make up your bed. I know that's a task they might need to do. It gets them out of the chair and gets them away from the computer for a little bit. You're going to go make your bed and do, you know, 15 push-ups to get some movement, or you're going to go for a walk around the block, whatever you feel like your child needs to just kind of get them up away from the computer, get some movement, and then they could come back and do the Google form for science. Questions 6. So it's really about how you need to however you need to break it down for your child, and give them those movement breaks, give them different activities, help them structure their day in a way that they can figure it out. And again, you know, this is going to be trial and error. It may be that you come up with a game plan and you realize that they need a more frequent break, or questions 1 through 3 only took them 5 minutes. So, you know, checking in with them, kind of figuring out as time goes on how long it's actually taking them to complete the different types of activities, kind of adjust the schedule for what your child needs. Is there any other? Thank you. I was going to ask you guys any questions. At what point in creating this schedule should we be concerned that our child is being forced to spend too much time on school? So I think a lot of that is looking at the information that's come from your school. Hopefully you have some guidelines on about how long, based on the age of your child and the grade level of your child, about how long they feel like that they should be engaged in instruction outside of the live instruction. You know, the live instruction is however long it is, that's kind of set in stone. But outside of that, about how long they feel like that your child should be spending through synchronous instruction every day. And that's really, you know, a parent question that's so hard to say, because it depends on the age of your child, the individual child. You know, it just depends on that. It's a lot of having conversation with the teacher as far as how much time do you anticipate, you know, my child spending on science for synchronous instruction or ELA or whatever, and then communicating with the teacher if it's taking longer than that, and maybe sorting out why that's happening. You know, is it a matter of it's focus, so we need to look at what we can do, what else we can put in place to help Johnny with being more focused. Again, if you are using the Connect, the Revibe Connect, that's where it's really great, because you can kind of look at that data and see, okay, well, he seems to be fidgeting and things a lot more during ELA, I may need to give him more breaks versus I see math, he's, able to sit and he's reporting that he's focusing well, and he's on task. So we may not need as frequent breaks there. So again, my usual answer that I've given the last few weeks is going to be communication with the teacher, and making sure that your child is engaged. I know in our school in this area, our students are not required to turn on their cameras. We're not allowed to require that for a number of very good reasons. But because of that, it's hard to know when you're in classroom with a child and their camera is off and they're muted because it's not their turn to speak, if they're actually there with you. I know through talking to some parents this week that we have some students who are taking advantage of this situation and who have been caught by parents being on their phone or on the computer, but Googling TikTok videos and things like that during instruction. So, it's just a matter of really kind of trying to sort out where the difficulty is. Are they having trouble with the material, or are they having trouble staying focused? Are they, just blatantly choosing to do something else during live instruction, and then they don't understand the work because they missed part of the lesson? So those are kind of some things to consider. Is there anything else as far as schedules that I can address here that would help you guys? I know this is DIY and I'm doing this on the fly. You guys know how, also understand and respect that you guys know how to type in your child's activities. It's just a matter of how much you need to break it down for your child. So is there anything else with the checklist that you guys could use some support with or have questions about how to do it? Again, my big thing is that it does not have to be pretty. If it is, you're writing on a piece of notebook paper, or you're having them write on a piece of notebook paper every day what they need to get done before their day is finished, all the work they need to complete, and they're marking it out, and that's working for you, then that's wonderful. And it doesn't have to be any more fancy or structured than that. Again, as much as age appropriate and as the year goes on, as your children become more self-sufficient, we want to put more of that on them. One thing about virtual learning, I feel like, is that it's going to be a good way for us to kind of push our kids to be more independent and be, a lot of times we talk about, we want our children to have skills to be ready and able to function in the 21st environment. And I feel like if online virtual schooling during a pandemic doesn't help set that up, I don't know what will. But if you guys are good, I will go ahead and move on to social stories. Anything else that anyone would like to talk about with checklist though? Okay. All right. So then the next section is social stories. So social stories are great. I love social stories. Again, a lot of my background is working with students with autism. So that's kind of typically our kiddos who need a lot of visuals, but social stories, visual schedules, checklists, we all use visuals and we all use visual schedules and checklists to some degree, even as adults. And then social stories are great for our kiddos who have ADHD because they have that impulse control. So it's a way to, pre-teach how to handle different social situations appropriately, and then also to follow up when things haven't gone as well as to how we need to handle the situation differently next time. And then it's just good for, younger kiddos who struggle a little bit more due to lower developmental abilities, to help explain situations. And with COVID, we have a lot of different things that are different for all of us that we have to get used to. So social stories were created by a lady named Carol Gray. She started all this and had some amazing, wonderful ideas. If you Google social stories and Carol Gray, you can find out all kinds of information and get a lot more specific information about them than this. When I first came into teaching and to working with children and adults with autism, there was information from Carol Gray, and that's what I learned. And in researching for doing this, I found out that there has been more. She's updated things more. Things have gotten more specific. And even me, having been doing this for a while, I got kind of overwhelmed. So I really narrowed down the information that I found and kind of tried to streamline it. So if you look at the information online, you may see, oh, she left some things out. I tried to keep it to, I want to write a social story for my child. I just need to get this done. What do I need to know? But again, there's wonderful, wonderful resources out there. So we're, again, like I mentioned before, using them for children, typically for children and adults with autism, about different social situations and giving suggestions on how to appropriately respond in those situations. And again, these are also great to use for students with autism, for students with ADHD. I've used them with typical students before, just, trying to explain a more complex social situation in a way that a child can understand. Social stories are wonderful. Oh, there we go. Okay. And they provide, so they're a mixture of descriptive sentences that we're using to explain the situation. So kind of to help them understand the situation. And then we're providing some coaching sentences that are gently guiding the behavior. So we want to focus on primarily your social story is going to be descriptive sentences, and then a little bit of the coaching sentences, basically at least a 2-to-1 ratio. So for every one coaching sentence that you have, you should have 2 descriptive sentences. All right, and then here's some tips. Oh, actually, let me go back. One thing I wanted to point out down here, specifically related to COVID, and I think this has been shared on some of the Revibe resources as well. I think Morgan has the resources that were shared early on when COVID first started, kind of a running list of things to take a look at. This Autism Little Learners, there are, I don't know, I haven't counted them, 15 to 20 social stories that are specifically related to COVID. So things like, why do I have to wear a mask? About how riding on the bus is going to be different. All those different kinds of things. Really great stories. And there's a lot of time and effort put into those. And excuse me, and they look great. They're wonderful. Just, when you're writing a social story, quickly, you need something quick for a situation that's come up. It doesn't have to be beautiful. If you get nothing out of this nothing else out of this training, is that what you're doing does not have to be beautiful. It doesn't have to look pretty. It doesn't have to be something that you would want to take a picture of and share with someone. If it's working for you and your child, then it works, and that is all that matters. All right, let's go to our next screen. I don't know why it's not going for me. Let's click here. Okay, so then I just have some general tips about social stories before we get started writing one of our own. So with this, we want to gather information about our audience. So this is where basically we want to know the child really well and be able to keep their perspective in mind and their interest in mind. So if it is for your own child, knowing your child and trying to think about whatever the situation is that you are writing this, whatever the social situation is that you're writing a story about, how is your child going to perceive that? Like, what are they going to be thinking? Or if this is in regards to an incident that's happened, do you know, like, oh, I know exactly what he was thinking about that, or she was thinking about that. Use that to help write your story, to kind of help them shift their perspective to understand from the outside perspective what was going on. And then interest, if you're trying to get them really engaged in the story, referencing things that they're interested in, or if it's a social story about brushing your teeth, if you can find pictures to use of dinosaurs brushing their teeth, because Johnny's really interested in dinosaurs, and that can be a great way to help incorporate their interest as well. So our social stories are going to have 4 main parts. We're going to have a title, just something short, sweet, so that we know what the story is going to be about. We're going to have an introduction, just 1 sentence that identifies the topic. We're going to have a body that provides that detail. That's going to be those detailed sentences and those gentle guiding sentences to help our kiddos reframe their thinking and what they need to do. And then we're going to have a concluding sentence that just kind of ties back to your title, and it basically summarizes what we've said and reinforces what we've said. And when we're writing this story, we're not going to write in the second person. So it's not a you do this or you do that or whatever. It's going to be either written as I statements. So if your child is reading it, they're reading it as themselves, or a third person point of view. And you can write it for something that's happened in the past. You can write it for something that's happened now or in the future. So those are kind of basically the general guidelines to help you with writing a story, kind of the rules, if you want to say, to think about as you're putting your story together. So, and then they're also going to answer who, what, where, when, and how. All right, oops. That's for later if we have time. Okay, so I did have an example of a social story that I was going to share with you guys. And if you guys have any concerns of for social stories that you think may be a little harder to find a social story for, put it in the chat box and we'll see if we can come up with something together on the fly. We have about 15 minutes left. So this is something that I threw together in reference to thinking about my students. I have, again, like I said, have always over the years had students in my classroom who struggle with focusing. And so we have conversations about, what are you thinking in your brain right now? You know, talking about when the teacher is talking, we need to be thinking in our brain about what she's saying and not thinking about other things. So this is just a simple social story that I had written about using my brain to learn. So it says, I go to school to learn. Learning means that I am thinking in my brain about what my teacher is saying. I want to understand what he or she is saying so that I can remember it. Sometimes when teachers are talking, students think about playing. If I am thinking about my toys, I can't think about my teacher's words. I remind myself to listen to the teacher and think about her words. I will learn when I think about what my teacher is telling me. And again, working with a child, I would read it more slowly. Your story could just be text. You can break it up, each sentence on a different page, try to find a picture to go with it to make the story more appealing. It's really, you know, whatever is going to work for your child. As you can see, a lot of these sentences talk about school, talk about what's happening in our brain. Our guiding sentence here are these last two. I can remind myself to listen to the teacher and think about her words. I will learn when I think about what my teacher is telling me. As you can see, it's all I, so written in first person. It's all in present tense. And then at the end, that we have the future tense sentence, just reminding ourselves that if we're learning, that if we're thinking about what the teacher is telling us, that we'll learn. And that ties back to our very beginning, that we go to school to learn. And I see we have a couple of things that popped up here in the chat box. So if it'll work with me, I'll take a look. Okay, let's see. This is about the blog. Did anybody have any questions about social stories? If you go in any comments or questions about social stories, also there are tons of free social stories available online. If you just do a Google search for that, there are lots of great resources. Things have definitely come a long way. So most of the time, if there's a specific situation that you need a social story for, you're probably going to be able to find something. If you get lucky, you might find something that's been saved in a format that's editable, so you can personalize it more for your child or for the situation. Teachers Pay Teachers is also another good resource. It's teacherspayteachers.com. Morgan, if you don't mind dropping that in the chat box. It's resources made by teachers for teachers, also used by parents to share all kinds of different information, academic information. You could certainly go on there and do a search and find some visual schedules. You could find some checklists. You would also be able to find some social stories. For sure there, I have looked and found some good things during my time teaching.
We did have a couple people write in, Jill. There was a question about social stories for older kids. So did you mention what age range or I guess, age range or situation and such that you would recommend this for, or
So, most of my experience has been in the school setting has been at the elementary school level. So I have used social stories with kindergarten all the way through 5th grade. But certainly they can be adjusted and used all the way up through high school. With your high school kiddos, if the developmental level is closer to their age, you could certainly write them on a more complex level, more detailed level, but they can really be modified and used for any age group. That's what's so great about them. I mean, that's something you could definitely search too if you need something specifically for a middle schooler or a high schooler. Put in the topic, put in the age range or the school level, and kind of see what comes up. And I see in the Q&A here that James is working with his grandson doing online instruction and getting upset and frustrated about math, so frustrated about what to do when he's feeling frustrated. Yes. So we can put something together real quick for that. I'll be happy to do that. Okay. All right, let's see. All right, so I'm going to say, I'm just going to put it right here. Again, I'm focusing on content right now, not so much how pretty it looks. So I'm going to go with sometimes I get upset. I can type. Sorry, it's been a long day. All right, sometimes I get upset. And so I'm going to focus on explaining this and being descriptive about it. Sometimes when I am working, oh, wait, hang on. I want to give a sentence that's more introductory. Work can be difficult and make me mad sometimes. And then we're going to kind of explain like what mad means. And if you want to be specific, if it's always math, when I am working on math, sometimes my cheeks and ears get red. I can't think. And I want to cry. And this, you would, again, this is knowing your audience. So to having that conversation with your grandson when he's not upset. Okay, so when you're feeling frustrated, what does that feel like? So it's, what you observe with him, and then what he tells you about that. I think a lot of times, our kiddos do kind of go into that shutdown mode and they just can't move on. So getting more information about that. He may say he wants to hit the computer, he wants to walk away, whatever, just kind of capture that. I can take, so we're going to give a little bit of suggestion here. I can take a deep breath and ask for help. I can take a break. And then you could give, be more specific there. And talk more specifically about what it is that math is making things hard, right? So, working, sorry guys for the typing, working on adding numbers takes it just takes some time to think through because you want to make sure that you're descriptive and that you're not having a lot of guiding sentences. So, thinking about your child, working on adding numbers takes practice. My teacher will work with me on adding numbers until it gets easier. And if you can also put yourself on there, my mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, family, whoever, my family will help me when it is tough. So things like that. So just kind of describing more information about what's happening, how they're feeling, helping them kind of describe that, and then work through what they're going to do. So that could be, just taking a deep breath, asking for help, taking a break. You could be more descriptive and talk about what that break is going to look like, that you're going to walk away from. Specifically now, you're going to walk away from the computer. You're going to go get some water. You're going to go do, again, I love some wall push-ups. You're going to go do some wall push-ups or a crab walk around the table 3 times. Whatever will help your child to help them kind of calm down. And then you're going to end with your summary sentence. So I work can be difficult, and I may get upset, but I have help, or I can take a break, or whatever the overall message is that you want your child to take away from that. Any other questions or anything more specific as far as social stories? I'm going to go ahead. I'll pop back over if I see anything. I'm going to go ahead. I had created a couple bonus slides in the hopes that we might have time to get to this. So I have, according to my calculations, 5 minutes left. So I'm going to roll into behavior charts a little bit. This is another visual that I know and love well. And so I wanted to share a little bit of that with you. So I have a couple example behavior charts here. Again, if you see something you like, I will share these with Morgan so that she can pass these along to you guys. They are editable so that you can make them work for you. With these, they're designed to be printed in black and white, and this child is working on staying in their seat or their chair, whatever their area is. So for however you want to break that down, for 3 live instruction periods or 3 activities, if they do that, they color a smiley face. Once they get 3, that means they get a break. And for this child, the break is car time, time to play with cars. Or you could do, this is set up to be done with Velcro, laminated and done with Velcro. I have 2 things that the child is working on here: staying in their seat or area, and then also keeping their eyes on the teacher, which again, this is virtual. So the conversation would be about keeping your eyes on, your computer screen and what the teacher is showing you. With this, you could have, the stars were colored. I left one colored, but you could certainly have the stars white and they could color them themselves, or you could create stars for them to Velcro on, whatever works. Again, it's whatever works. And then down here, there's 4 choices of an activity, whatever they want for their reward. So once they've earned their stars, and again, you're deciding how you're going to hand those out based on per activity or per time period, that they would be able to earn that reward. So with your behavior charts now, kind of working backwards on this one, but kind of some overall tips with the behavior charts. You're focusing on catching them being good. So you're paying extra attention and noticing, hey, I see that, I walked in the room and you were paying attention to your teacher and your teacher called on you and you were able to answer a question. So really focusing on those specific things, especially with virtual learning now. And then how to use behavior charts, you're setting a goal. So figure out what the goal is, picking one behavior. What's the most important behavior they need right now? It may be, for my kiddo right here, we're not staying in our seat and then we're going and playing with toys. Well, if we stay in our seat, then we're not going to go play with toys. So let's focus on staying in the seat. And then have your child help select a reward that's going to give them incentive. And again, rewards don't have to be a toy. It doesn't have to be something elaborate. It could be just, a break time that's specific, that they have chosen something that means a lot to them. Even if it's, something that's considered playing, they're going to need those breaks. They can't sit all day. And I think that's kind of what, I think it was Jana was alluding to. The kids can't sit all day. We know that. We can't expect the kids to be able to sit in front of a computer and do their work all day. It's hard for us as adults. So whatever you need to put in place for your child to be able to get their work done, we all need a motivator. And then you want to use that to track and quantify the good choices. So you're focusing on, like I said, catching them being good. There's nothing on here negative. You also can't lose what you've already earned. So, just because after you had car time, the first time you decided you were done and you got out of your chair, out of your, away from your seat, during math, doesn't mean that you can lose one of your smileys from before. Or just because you decided during lunch to go hit your sister doesn't mean that you can lose a smiley, because that's not what we're targeting. We're targeting to stay in our seat. So making sure that we're using this as only a reward, as an incentive, and not as a negative thing or a way to punish the child, which I know can happen. We've all felt that way before when we're frustrated with our kiddos. I get that, but we want to make sure that this is only a way to reward and it's positive. So make sure that you're using your behavior chart to pre-conference. So to talk about and practice what staying in your seat looks like, or what getting your work done looks like. So looking at that document, that Google Doc for science ahead of time, seeing what the assignment's asking you to do, talking about what good work would look like versus not good work, making sure your child's clear on what they need to get done. Again, like I said, showing for them, this is what it looks like when I'm sitting and I'm looking at my computer and I'm looking at the screen and I am watching what's happening. And then having the role play. So show me what it would look like if you are sitting at your seat ready for live instruction. Can I lay like can I lay like that? No, I cannot. Can I lay like this? No, I cannot. What do I need to do with my body so I look ready to learn? And then post-conference. So when we have those, good or bad, when we have those good days talking about, hey, look, you earned car time to play with cars 3 times today. That's great. You did so great. And then times when we don't do so well, talking about that. And just focusing on, okay, so today wasn't the best day. We had, you got out of your seat like 4 times during math. What do we need to do tomorrow to help ourselves remember? And that's a good time to throw in a social story about staying in our seat. Again, not as punishment, but to help reinforce that conversation of those good behaviors of what we need to do. And then again, everybody needs a reward. So rewards don't have to be tangible, but thinking about being virtual, how important that is for us right now. Everybody needs something to look forward to. Virtual learning is tough, and whatever makes your day easier, makes your child's day easier, makes your child's day better, and works for everybody in your family is what works for you, and it's all good. So I think that's everything that I had. Does anybody have any questions or comments about any of this? I see there's some things in the chat. Okay, great. Social story example for an older child. So if you could give me an idea, Nicole, of something that you would, like a topic that you would be thinking about, that would help. So like first impressions when you're meeting someone new. Okay, tell you what, I believe Morgan would have your, I can share that. You know what? I can share that with Morgan and she can share that with everybody. And I can also get your email address from her, from you registering for this, and be able to share that with you. I can create something and send it to you after the fact. So if there's anything else that you guys are kind of thinking that you need, I can either try to put something together with all the information I'm going to send to Morgan for you guys to be able to use, or contact you directly. So if there's any, or give you links to something great that I've been able to find. So if anybody else has any ideas of anything specific that they need, more specific schedules or checklists or other types of social stories, feel free to drop it in the chat box. But you guys have been great. And we are all going to get through this. It is all good. My daughter missed her very first live class on the very first day of school because I made her a visual schedule, and I was very proud of myself putting everything all on one page. I neglected to put her Google Meet codes for her classes on there. So my own child missed her very first class on her very first day of school. So everybody is having some difficulty and having some growing pains getting used to this. No parent that I have talked to has felt like that they have everything under control, but we are all in this together. We're all going to work and get through this, and it's going to be a great year. Anything else for the chat that anybody would like specifically? If not, we'll end. All right, well, I think that's it. If you guys think of anything else, this is on our Revibe's Facebook page, so you can always comment there and give me ideas if something comes up that you're thinking of that you would like help with that you're not able to Google and find a social story for. I'll be more than happy to do that. But thanks, everybody.